Welcome into Respect Her Game. Kasey Hudson alongside Natalie Noury for this Monday episode. It's been a long time. You guys have probably seen me and Natalie running in 500 other directions, covering all sorts of sports. Now, I know you had a long night. How are you feeling this morning before we dive in?
Whew, we had, oh my God, Kasey, we had our 10th doubleheader of the season yesterday in Worcester.
Oh,
It was NFL Sunday. It was, raining the first half of the day. Everybody was looking at each other like, are we serious right now? But
what
we got
else?
through it. It was a late night, long night. A lot of baseball. I actually ended up jumping on a camera as a camera op for like 2 innings just to give it a try.
Ooh.
So we had some fun with what we were given. But yes, long day, but happy to be here with you today. How are you?
Oh, I love it. I'm good. I had a refreshing weekend, took some downtime, enjoyed the weather before the rain came
Good.
in, but I also love a good storm because I am from Florida. So I definitely
I
leaned
agree.
into the cozy atmosphere, that's for sure. Lived it up for Sunday football, but as you said, there's so many
Oh,
things
did
going
you?
on. Head on a swivel. Tis the season for head on a
Hmm.
swivel, honestly. So while we were navigating that kind of chaos, there was an exciting kind of chaos that took place in women's sports, more particularly the Naismith Hall of Fame. There were some announcements. There was a loaded class that was presented to be inducted into this Hall of Fame. Actually, let me be more specific. It's the largest class of WNBA players ever for the Hall. Between them, they have 10 WNBA championships, 2 MVP trophies, and 11 Olympic gold medals. And by them, well, let's drop some names here. You got Sue Bird in the mix. You got Maya Moore in the mix. You got Sylvia Fowles, which funny story to her introduction when they were mentioning her making the Hall of Fame. But it's just one of those things. Growing up, we get to look up to so many women who are kind of paving the way and marking paths in women's sports. So just kind of from that perspective, Nat, how cool is it to see these kind of announcements in the largest WNBA class kind of pop off?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what stands out to me. First of all, what's funny to me is I feel like when I was growing up, the WNBA was always kind of an avenue that I kind of knew existed. I went to a high school where I think we had a star basketball player. His sister played for Duke, I think, and she was interested in going to the WNBA. So growing up, it was always kind of like, oh, so there's pro women's basketball, but like, what else is there? So I think just kind of looking at this, I think what the WNBA started like 1997. I know pro basketball existed before that for them. I was born in '99, so it was always kind of in my lifetime that like this was a possibility. So just to see that this is the largest class to be inducted, the names that are inducted carry a lot of weight, of course. But I think it goes to show just the growth of everything. I know that's such a simple statement, but it's really true. Like the fact that there's so many names that carry so much weight. I mean, Gino Auriemma went to congratulate them as well. So it's been a long like history getting to this point, and I just think it's a great point that we're at, and excited for this class.
Oh, 100%. I don't think that we can speak enough to the growth because of let's just say the timeline of progression and just the way that they're kind of puzzling this to make it better, to make it more impactful, being able to work in tandem with the NBA and to have that kind of support and to have the expansions that have taken place over last year, this year, and the couple years to come here, and maybe some movement. We're always going to be talking about growth, but I think that's such a
Right.
great point too, is actually seeing the avenue. I've always joked about it from a soccer standpoint. When I was like, yeah, I was going to be a
Yeah,
professional soccer player, but like the window for that was so small. The avenue was more of
I
a bike
know.
lane at that point. So I always love seeing moments like this and the fact that growth is speaking to the opportunities and the way that's being paved by women such as Sue Bird, Maya Moore, and so on and so forth. So you don't have to take my word for it, though. We actually get to hear from these immaculate, impressive athletes about their time, about being inducted in. So first and foremost, let's just give a shout out to UConn because we are in New England, and that jumps off the page to give us some love to Sue Bird in her speech right here.
Let's do it.
This moment is truly overwhelming. There are hundreds of people in here I could thank, and those are probably just my surgeons. It's been so wonderful, though, seeing so many familiar faces. I do want to thank the Honors Committee, Jerry Colangelo, and everyone who makes this evening possible. It's been a crazy year for me. My own street in Seattle, the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, and then 2 weeks ago, the city of Seattle and the Seattle Storm unveiled my statue outside of Climate Pledge Arena. Thank you. The first WNBA player, but certainly not the last. And for years, When you play in the WNBA for years, we were told the league's not going to make it, that it wasn't important. But we're in Massachusetts, so like the great Will Hunting once said, how do you like them apples? And now this moment. For me, the Hall of Fame is the ultimate capstone, not because of the fame part, but because of the hall part. It's about being forever connected to this group of peers. The real honor is becoming part of a community that includes everyone, from the trailblazers who came before us, like Ann Donovan, rest in peace, and Ann Myers-Drysdale, whose faces I used to see on the walls when I visited here as a kid, to all the players still out there changing the game. And of course, to our 2025 class, Maya, Syl, Mello, Dwight, Billy, Mickey, Danny, and the 2008 men's Olympic team. I remember that Olympics well. It was a great Olympics. Both teams hanging out, winning gold. I mean, it was kind of weird how LeBron, Chris, and Dwayne kept yapping about 3-year deals with a player option, and where do you want to take your talents? Where do you want to take your talents? I don't know, I tuned it out. I'm sure Mickey could probably tell you guys about that later. But Beijing was fun, and it was so memorable, so congrats to you guys. This honor really boils down to one word that Maya, Sylvia, and I know doesn't come easy, especially in the career of a female athlete: belonging. I learned its importance early because no matter how tough the odds, I found my footing by finding my people. And sometimes they found me. Growing up on Long Island, our 5th grade elementary school yearbook asked us to predict what we'd be when we grew up. I said a doctor, a lawyer, or a professional soccer player. 6 surgeries on my left knee, 1 on each hip, 5 broken noses later, I went on to know a lot of doctors. And lawyers, every athlete in here knows, we know a lot of lawyers too. They do all the contracts. As for professional soccer players, well, I didn't become one, but I scored one anyway.
I love the quick little
That's
moment
awesome.
from Megan Rapone right there. Like, way to close. How do you follow that up? I love the how about the apples remark, because I mean, come on, we're talking
Yes.
about legends all in one room. She touches on Beijing. She's a 4-time WNBA champion. Like, what did you make of that speech, Nat?
Oh man, I mean it's so relatable, probably first of all because we're in New England, but I'm gonna relate it to, you know, she wanted to be a pro soccer player growing up, and then avenues change. Yeah, just like you. I thought about it for a second, knew that was certainly not in the cards for me. But no, I just think it's so cool, and like she's got her own street named after her. She has a statue, first WNBA player ever to have a statue, and I just think, you know, it was just. I don't know, it makes you kind of feel proud for them. I don't know Sue Bird at all. I don't know any of these people, but listening to these speeches, you can just tell how much magnitude it holds when they do make it to this level. And she used the word belonging, and I think that's the hardest part for women in sports sometimes. It's just feeling like you belong, you know?
Yeah. And knowing that like all the work doesn't always have to have this like contrast to make it seem like you have to keep working to earn your strides. I feel like she kind of painted that picture very well. She's earned her strides just by not just by showing up, but by showing up and by continuing to show up and overcome adversity. Like when you hear about the number of injuries that sometimes put a different kind of athlete out of their career path earlier than expected, it helps you see some kind of things. Another name that she gave a number of shout outs to, Maya Moore, you would know it, and also love it because, again, back to the UConn love and celebration. Both of these UConn legends in the mix entering the Hall of Fame. Let's take a listen to Maya Moore right here.
My biggest desire when I played was to help my team in any way that they needed. I think they felt that from me. But one of the most profound aspects of team sports, I think, is seeing a group of individuals over time start to trust each other and truly play for each other. Coach, you have a quote after you guys won your 12th NCAA title this past spring that I love, and you said, this team fell in love with each other, with the process, with ourselves as a group. And we all got to literally watch as your team played the most connected basketball at the perfect time. So as an alumni, as a Husky, I loved watching them do that because of the adversity that they went through. And just overcoming the grind, but you do that and you overcome through love and dedication and trust. All these things that we've heard the other honorees talk about, it's what makes champions champions. So thank you, Coach, for being you. Our UConn dynasty, our Lynx dynasty, each came about because of that way of being and playing. But you don't have to be me or Sue or Syl or any of these greats here tonight to feel the joy of winning together. These teams can inspire us to take these values and create championship culture right where your feet are. I'm so grateful how I've been able to take my championship experiences to an even more precious context, which is our collective communities. Through the family that helped raise me, I began a journey that would require me to live in a way that challenged the expected norm, and I started to actually connect with more of my unseen teammates, and my life would change forever, for the better. Championship culture can be found not just in sports, but in all aspects of life. In our homes, our schools, our neighborhoods, those are the true measures of how our winning legacy exists. But building championship culture takes time. It takes effort. After 20 years of competing for championships, I learned that so much of the work needed to create championship culture is actually hidden. For my teams, that hidden work looked like hours on the court together. Workouts with position coaches, learning how to take care of our bodies, sharing meals together, having tough conversations about how we're going to win this thing. And likewise, much of the work in building championship communities is unseen. The internal work that we have to do to realize we are all teammates on this planet. Discovering the neighbors around us who we've always overlooked. Showing up to learn and listen to people who have different perspectives than our own. Figuring out how we can all get our needs met and not be at the expense of someone else's dignity. Championship culture. It begins in the dark, in the hidden, genuine conversations, time spent, but once it springs to life, you can't deny it. It's strong and inspiring. And each of us has the power and the responsibility to keep that alive wherever we are.
Wow, you're only as good as the bones that build you. And what I pulled from her speech is the fact that she gave so much creditation to communities and then obviously building that championship culture, but that all taps back to University of Connecticut and just like the program that they have bred there. And you just hear from all kinds of players. We've heard it from Paige Beckers before she got into the league herself, just kind of how much that program built who she is, built the strength that she needed to make sure she could be the player that she is today. So I loved her ability to kind of intertwine all of that to have this moment right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. Obviously, you touch on the bond you have with your teammates, the people who helped get you to where you are. I think what's, just listening to both of these speeches, what's really like inspiring, I'll use that word, is just like, this is, the past generation of trailblazers. And it's like listening to them, listening to the groundwork that they've done to help, propel this next generation. That's the inspiring part, because it's like you kind of, I don't want to say they're unsung heroes, because they're not by any means. They're being, credited how they're supposed to be. But we didn't have the media back then. We didn't have the kind of access that we do now. So the fact that we're able to hear this stuff, it's like, we've got the generation of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and all those players. But I just think these speeches are so important to highlight the athletes who, blazed the path that didn't quite get as much media attention, right?
Yes, I actually think that that's a really fun thing to point out, or fun's probably not the right word, an important thing to point out, because this probably wasn't fun for them in a sense, the dynamic change, but it's so true. Like you never had that much of a scope into the minds and the hearts and kind of the I don't know, adversity that these players went through back then. You got what little bit the media could go and get within their boundaries, within their range, whereas like now everything is under this different kind of spotlight and is being picked apart and depicted in so many different ways. So I feel like it gives these new athletes just a way to kind of be like, oh yeah, I have felt that too. I just didn't know it was vocalized in such a beautiful way. So I think that she had a great speech. Sue Bird had a great speech. Bird's was awesome because she's mentioning all these different careers and she knows a lot of doctors and lawyers and she wanted to be a professional soccer player. Sylvia Fowles, I mentioned or teased this moments ago, how she kind of had an interesting opening or introduction to her Hall of Fame. Apparently, her path originally was supposed to be a mortician. Some Wednesday Addams vibes were in the mix there.
Whoa.
I don't want to speak. Yeah. It was like she went from wanting to be a mortician, didn't fully like take on wanting to be a professional basketball player or take it as seriously, and then all of a sudden it became her life. So I'm like, this is fun. You see a completely different, I don't know, approach and path as Sylvia Fowles. So let's take a listen to her right here.
I tried basketball after putting up a good fight in my 8th grade year. It was a life-changing moment for an inner-city kid with no real dreams. By the end of my 8th grade year, my name had gained some traction. One day I was called to the front office. I was hyped because I thought it was my mom picking me up early. I made it to the office and it was Coach Novak with two of our top players from Miami Edison Senior High, Shalonda and Florence. They was the first to help me visualize basketball many opportunities. They helped me turn raw potential into something special. To my Miami Edison crew, Coach Novak, Crow, Moore, and Roger, thank you for laying the foundation and teaching me the fundamentals of the game. You instilled in me a championship mindset and the ability to compete without fear. To my AAU teams, the Hollywood Eagles and the Miami Suns, those years were crucial in shaping me. Thank you for challenging me every weekend to be better than I was the weekend before. To my Cuban papas, Miguel, Obel, Torres, and Lou, you all stepped up and played that fatherly figure role when I needed the most. You taught me that family does not have to be blood. Thank you for taking care of me. To Gulliver Prep, thank you for allowing me to be authentically myself. Transitioning from public school to a private school was not easy. Ms. K, thank you for the opportunity to represent Gulliver. Coach Armstrong and Coach Didi, thank you for allowing me to lead. To my best friends, Tanya, Ashley, Crystal, and Karima, thank you for holding me accountable, and thank you for keeping me grounded. To LSU, what a fantastic ride we had. Playing for LSU was one of the best decisions of my life, and that decision was primarily because of Sue Gunner. People often ask me why I chose LSU, and it was because of Sue's honesty. Other coaches said everything during my home visit, and Sue told me the truth. She told me that I was a good player, but if I continued to work hard, that I would be great. She didn't promise me a starting spot. She told me I had to work for it. See, that resonated with me. It reminded me of how I was raised. Nothing was ever given, but it was earned. I knew LSU was the right fit for me. To Coach Starkey, thank you for teaching me that there's more than life than just basketball. You helped me understand who I am off the court counts and matters much as it do on it. Coach Berry, thank you for becoming my mom away from home. You taught me the importance of taking care of myself, not just as an athlete, but a young Black woman navigating a complex world. Thank you for everything. Coach Christie, Pokey, Travis, Yolanda, and Coach Van, thank you. To the Chicago Sky Organization, thank you for 6 unforgettable seasons. You allowed me to show the world who I am. To the Alta family, Margaret, and the city of Chicago, thank you for embracing me with open arms. To the Minnesota Leagues, damn, we did that. Thank you for challenging me and helping me elevate my game. Weezy, Money, Maya, BB, Nay, Asia, and Gia, you taught me how to compete at a high level year after year. Thank you, Mr. Glenn Taylor, for being the best owner an organization could ever wish for. Thank you for your time and your commitment to us ladies over the years. I love you so much. Coach Rebo, Shell P, Jim Pete, and James, thank you. Thank you, USA Basketball, for all the wonderful years of representing my country and helping me compete at the high level with the world's greats. A special thank you to Nike, who has been by my side since high school. Representing you on and off the court has been an honor.
Oh, what I like about these speeches is the other perspective. You kind of already touched on that, but for her to mention the fact that like she chose LSU because they didn't give her a status spot. They basically didn't tell her like, hey, you're already amazing. Don't do anything different. She knew she was going to be challenged through LSU, and that's where you get the best gains and the best growth, knowing that something's not going to be handed to you, but that it is going to be earned. What did you make of her ditching the mortician life, which I'm glad she did, and being honored as a Hall of Famer now?
I mean, growing up, I thought about, being a teacher, like a singer, but never a mortician. I don't even know how that's introduced to a child. It's hilarious.
Oh,
but
we're going to remember the singing part, Natalie. We got to make sure that gets incorporated into Respect Her Game. Okay.
We'll see about that. But no, I don't know. It's just, I love these speeches because it brings so much reality to the situation. And I think I like the point that you just brought up too. It's like, you want to be challenged. And I think, there's even a part in like our careers. Like, I don't know, sometimes I kind of relate what we do as to similarly to what like athletes kind of go through. Like sometimes you need to be scouted. Sometimes someone needs to take a chance on you. And then once you get to that level, sometimes it's kind of hard because like you might not be a sure thing. There might be someone who's working twice as hard as you that can surpass you. Or, like the whole Lou Gehrig moment, like you might have a day off, someone comes in and shows you up a little bit. So sometimes it's like you need those role models in your life to take a chance on you, but then to kick you in the butt too and make sure that you're good, but you need to be great and you're going to be great if you do this. And I think these speeches just kind of show the importance of having those role models, having those coaches, those mentors. It just spoke volumes to me.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful parallel actually to what we do because I feel like you and I are similar in a sense to like we embrace the challenge, but our career does not come without them. But I feel like it would feel different. The rewarding part of it, the awarding part of it, I should say, feels different when, you kind of feel like you're becoming not complacent, but just going through a normal mellow rhythm. Like I tell anybody who asks me about this industry, you got to sign up for chaos. You have to embrace the chaos. And I feel from an athletic perspective, they embrace the chaos in terms of constantly overcoming challenges and the word adversity, which I can't find a better word because that's exactly what athletes continue to face just to make sure that they pave the way and become trailblazers, as you so perfectly put it. We will talk about another trailblazer or projected trailblazer, I should say, coming up here on Respect Her Game. So don't go anywhere. We get some more information on Caitlin Clark and her injury timeline and whether or not Connecticut is going to be able to hold on to their team. We'll see. Stick with us here on Respect Her Game. Welcome back into Respect Her Game. Kasey Hudson alongside Natalie Noury. We just gave honor where honor is due, and that's for some big names that entered one of the largest WNBA Hall of Fame classes, such as Sue Bird, Maya Moore, and Sylvia Fowles. And then, of course, we had to perfectly pivot into a projected trailblazer such as Caitlin Clark. We know all the hype that surrounded her name when she made her debut in the WNBA, but then we also knew that she lived up to a lot of that hype. In all honesty, she very much helped that Fever team find more of their identity. Let them figure out what a postseason feels like. Then comes the top of this year, or this season. The expectation, I would say, was much higher as to how Clark can continue to lead this team. But we started to see a lot of identity continue to be formulated for the Fever. But so many big names on this roster started to drop like flies when it came to injuries, and Caitlin Clark has not been short of being a part of that in and out of the lineup. And then we finally get some news that she will be out for the remainder of the 2025 season per ESPN right here. If you're looking at your screens, Caitlin Clark has been ruled out for the remainder of the WNBA season per her own announcement. So, I'd say where do we start on this one? Because it's just tough. Like I said, like there was so much angst as to what was going to be delivered for the Fever this season, and then I feel like they were in the headlines even more because you start to hear how vocal Sophie Cunningham is, and you start to see how protective her teammates are of Caitlin Clark, and making sure that she just has the ability to go out there and play, and she continues to rise to the occasion. But she was out a number of times due to injury. I mean, how hard is that to kind of find your own balance in year two and then end up not even be able to complete it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that kind of comes to my mind, and like during the commercial, we were just kind of talking a little bit about baseball. Like a name that comes to mind is like Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer and those guys that have so much pressure put on them as they're coming into this rookie season. Caitlin Clark, I mean, I don't even know how the pressure is comparable, but when her name was in the WNBA, media attention. People were paying attention. It was like there's so much pressure on her. I kind of related it to what the young guys at the Red Sox were going through. And I'm like, how's she going to do in year 2 when they're expecting so much out of her? She's made a name for herself. She had a great rookie year. And now she's going through this injury plague. And I mean, it's not just like once a year, but like you take a look at that timeline, she's dealt with a few different things. And I think about what kind of pressure she was coming into the season with. Was she pushing herself too hard? I mean, it's hard to keep your body healthy as an athlete, but I mean, I'm not an athlete. I don't know how they do it, but I mean, I just think about that aspect of like, how hard is that?
Yeah, no, that's actually a great point because like with all of the extra criticism kind of on you and not knowing, because I mean, I don't think a lot of these players really knew what to expect for this upcoming or now this current Fever season. There was just so much turnover across the WNBA as a whole, new coaches, like new systems being implemented. And then of course, so much move around when it came to trades and acquisitions. So that pressure alone, knowing that you're the face of a franchise and you are expected to produce and to be a leader and not particularly know what the formula of that team's going to look like, then things tend to start going a little well. They were still given some grace in terms of a team that wasn't all that good last season or especially this season before, and things start to pick up, and it seems like every time things began to pick up, then there was Caitlin Clark coming out of the lineup because of injury. So I will say this to paint the picture. May 26th, the Fever announced Clark was dealing with a quad strain. June 14th, scoring 32 points and leading the Fever to a 102-88 win over the Liberty, but that was upon Caitlin Clark's return from another injury situation. Less than 2 weeks later, on June 26th, the Fever announced that Clark would be day-to-day because of a left groin injury. Everything really remaining on the lower body here. She returned on July 9th. Then she would withdraw from the All-Star weekend to suffer a bone bruise, which that is actually a very lingering situation that can pop up and flare up and become a problem at any moment. And that was during a workout on August 20th. And then finally September 4th is when the announcement came to. But regardless of their fearless leader being in and out because of the many injuries that she has had to overcome lower body-wise more particularly, I can say that the Fever have clinched a postseason spot. And it was kind of a topic a couple of weeks ago. I want to say that everyone was kind of getting really excited about the fact that the Fever had proven themselves outside of Caitlin Clark being in the lineup. But what did you make of just kind of the fact that this is a team that also has a different kind of pressure on them? Because it's not just the Caitlin Clark show, it's them proving that they have an identity outside of their star.
Yeah, I mean, as we were just kind of going through that timeline there, it's like, I don't know if like the metaphor popped into my head, but like when, if you injure, like, say your left ankle, you start to overcompensate and put more pressure on your right ankle while your left ankle is healing. Then all of a sudden the right ankle starts acting up. And that was kind of a concern of mine where it's like, okay, Caitlin Clark is the left ankle in this metaphor. Are they going to start leaning too heavily on other players on this team, possibly exhaust those players and then kind of run out of options? So I feel like they did a really nice job kind of, dispersing, I guess, responsibility, if we can say it that way, where this team didn't overexhaust themselves without Caitlin Clark, but they found a way to win. And I think that is the most important part about, being a successful team in general. We heard that in those Hall of Fame speeches, how important your teammates are in developing that bond. Adversity builds character, and adversity kind of makes you grow closer too. I mean, just think about that turbulent plane ride the Red Sox had. All of a sudden, they're like brothers for life after that kind of thing. So I think it's the same kind of thing. So I mean, it's just such a disappointing season for Caitlin Clark, but the Fever are picking it up for her, probably just knowing that she's sidelined now.
Oh, 100%. And that perfectly pivots us to one of the other key players and assets when it comes to the Fever, Aaliyah Boston, speaking on Caitlin Clark right here.
Aaliyah, just through the adversity that you guys went through this season, especially maybe in August when people were going down left and right, did you guys feel like this was always possible to make the playoffs? Did you ever have moments of concern or doubt? And what allowed you guys to just keep, the eyes on the prize more or less?
I think, just being someone in this locker room, you never doubt yourself and what you're capable of, no matter what happens. I think the entire staff, up to the head, just made great decisions when people went down on who to bring in, the type of people to bring in. And that was really our mindset. We never doubted ourselves. We never doubted that we could be in the playoffs. Even if things looked like it got harder, for us, it was about sticking together. And I think through everything, you're able to see that, us play with joy, us play together, regardless of who's on that floor.
I mean, that basically says what you mentioned there. Like, they perfectly formulated not overloading any particular players, but I think that we saw that, next woman up mentality really shine through when it comes to the Fever and Aaliyah Boston. I mean, she's been crushing it not only on the court, but just kind of in life scenarios as well, making sure that she's found ways to be impactful throughout the WNBA and other leagues. Also locking down some ownership in Boston, which I think is so poetic considering her last name. We do have more stuff. Well, the last time we talked about Boston, we were kind of trying to manifest the Connecticut Sun to just hand over their team, basically, I think is the Cliff Notes version way of putting it. And it sounded like things were in movement for the Connecticut Sun to shift over to Boston, and it made sense, but it feels like Connecticut's going to try to hold on for dear life and keeping things going. At the end of one of the articles, they talked about the fact that like they want to see more progression when it comes to Hartford. They want to build out a facility. They want to invest in this being a more competitive team all around, and that goes across the board. But what did you make of this drama of like Connecticut going to sell the team and then Boston getting involved, and now it sounds like Connecticut's going to try to hold on?
I mean, it's in a way, like the first word that comes to mind, it's a little messy. It's like, okay, so what are we going to do here? I think Connecticut might be overlooked, but it's a hotbed for women's basketball. You think about UConn and Gino Auriemma, what they've done there, and you think about the Connecticut Sun, and they've been there since like 2003 or something, playing in that venue. I don't know the exact date, but they've been around for a long time. They've had roots there. They've planted themselves there. They've been a successful program there. And I just think, I don't know, it's kind of like, to me, it's like a small business owner. It's like, if you want to kind of dictate how your team operates, why not just do it yourself? Why not? I think it's something like that. And I was trying to research. I'm like, are there any states that actually own teams, and how successful is it? I think I really only came across the Packers might be the only NFL team that's not privately held. But it doesn't show any different success rate, in my opinion. So I just think if Connecticut wants to hold on to it, I don't know. I'm no economic genius. I don't know what funding or anything's going to look like, but I'm all for that. I mean, I think the best way to make sure something is operating the way you want it to is do it yourself. So I think that would be a good idea, just to keep it where it is.
Yeah, I think I agree with you in terms of like the messiness of it all. It was top of August where it came out that I believe the minority owners of the Celtics were looking to gain ownership of the Sun and make sure that move happens over to Boston or comes over here. And that season was supposed to go into effect as of 2027. So considering kind of like all the intricacies that go into any sort of team ownership as well as team movement, this could be something that kind of floats around for quite some time, especially if Connecticut's going to continue to hold on. But I love that you make the case to say that it's more of a credited hotbed than it's being noted for, and that's probably one of the reasons they do want to hold on to it, to kind of prove the fact that they have been able to find success when it comes to basketball, breed success. You have University of Connecticut right there, and we just heard from two Hall of Famers out of UConn in that aspect. So we'll see what kind of movement continues to go around when it comes to the Connecticut Sun, and if they'll remain in Connecticut. I look at it as a little sister big sister tandem, just kind of the push and pull, maybe giving a toy back or like never giving it up to begin with. So we will see. Less push and pull coming up here on Respect Her Game. We're going to get into some of the best topics, best sports moments when it comes to Boston, as well as, I don't know, some hope for who might make it to the Super Bowl, some Olympic hopes and dreams as well. So don't go anywhere. Stick with us here on Respect Her Game as Natalie and I unfold some of our picks and chooses for some of the top moments. All right, you are watching Respect Her Game, Kasey and Natalie, and as I promised, we're going to run through some of me and Nat's top picks for some hot topics out there when it comes to the sports world, starting with if we could have been at a famous game in Boston sports history, which game would you choose and why? I love this one because, as everyone knows by now, I'm still getting situated here in New England. But what I love about sports is you don't have to be from the area to hear about epic moments or to want to, I don't know, time machine to go back and see such epic moments. So, Natalie, I'll bid the floor to you to start. What was your moment that you chose?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm trying to think. I was not, I hate to say this on Nesson, but I wasn't a big baseball fan probably 5 years ago. I probably got into it maybe 3 years ago.
It just speaks to you falling in love with one of the best games.
Exactly right. I've learned to appreciate and love it. So I think just with the work I've done the past few years, the 2004 World Series with the Red Sox, I just think that would be something that I like to go back in time and appreciate more. I was 5 years old, so I was probably still in my Polly Pocket phase of life, but I think that would be a cool game to go back and just appreciate the work that I do now. But I think another one would be the 2011 Stanley Cup final for the Bruins, because that was the year that I really kind of decided I wanted to get into this industry. So I was 12 years old and I was watching it with my grandfather. So I think, I don't know, I was at home with my grandpa watching it. That's how I decided I wanted to get into the industry. So maybe I wouldn't want to relive that experience, but to see that in person would also be pretty cool.
I feel like living an experience as an adult versus a kid, that's always going to give degrees of separation and like different ways of being inspired. But I love that. I think that that's really cool. And like having been around the Red Sox these past couple of months, like the moments that have made me just emotionally attached to how beautiful of a game it could be. Like, yeah, going back and seeing the World Series, I think would be really cool. I went with Bobby Orr's Stanley Cup flying goal, and I chose this because this is a picture that you have seen as any sort of basic hockey fan. And I thought it was so fitting now living in Boston that this is something that I've seen. And like when I covered the Tampa Bay Lightning, I worked very closely on, always was in the press box, kind of like chatting it up with Phil Esposito. And he just tells you like these amazing stories of his timeline and how much hockey has changed. Some things that I'll never repeat. I'll keep it a secret between me and Espo, but just kind of like knowing that this is like a moment in time that has been stilled and just like the perfectly captured picture and what Bobby Orr means to New England, what he means to Boston, and like obviously the legacy and an original 6 team and Stanley Cup. Like this is one of the epitomes of legacy of one of my favorite sports, as you know, being hockey. So I thought that would be fantastic. And plus Miracle, the movie I talked about with Sophia earlier today on Hockey Hub, made me cry. So all things regarding hockey is usually a big shoe in. Exactly. Pivoting from baseball and hockey, we do have to we have to come up with a prediction. Now we gotta pick some Super Bowl champions, and this one is always tough for me because I feel like we have had less surprises. I maybe because I'm a little bit of a Kansas City Chiefs hater, that's for sure. So I've always been like, the Buffalo Bills are finally gonna make it, or this is Detroit's year. Like I've been that girl for the past 4 or 5 years. So I think I went a little safe with mine. I deferred to the Eagles going back to back. That just kind of felt about right, because considering how many injuries they overcame, and they were still quite a formidable team, and Nick, their head coach, was getting so much flag for just like having these kind of, I don't know, questionable calls and how he was orchestrating his team. I feel like having less of that noise this year is kind of a lock-in to be able to find a way to get back to the Super Bowl as long as health stays on their side. And I feel like they learned so many notable lessons, and being able to start the season in Brazil last year and kind of go through all the waves that they did, I feel like they're on track. And Saquon Barkley, I mean, he's a breath of fresh air who just wants to continue to make a name that he wasn't able to establish when he was with the Giants. So I feel like it would be a bit of a poetic story for them to get a chance to go back to back.
Yeah, and I feel like Philly fans and Boston fans are always kind of like, who's the more aggressive fan base? I feel like there's kind of like a weird unspoken rivalry as to who's more vicious. But you know what? I'm a Philly fan. I like the Phillies. I like the Eagles. I like what they do. I think they've got just such a passionate fan base. I wouldn't mind seeing the Eagles go back to back. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a Cooper DeJean fan now, just based on everything you see online, TikTok, Saquon Barkley. I mean, they just have some personalities, and winning the Super Bowl, of course, helps just expose that further. So I wouldn't mind that. I think I did go for the chip on my shoulder answer of the Bills, because I wanted them to beat the Kansas City Chiefs so badly last year. I was so frustrated. My dad is a huge Josh Allen fan, so we've always kind of been Josh Allen fans in my house. So I'm going to go Bills, but the Commanders surprised me last year, and I'm a Vikings fan. I lived in Minnesota for a little while, and then shout out to my old college friend Max Brosmer, who's now their third string QB. So I am a Vikings fan. So I'll say that. Maybe, okay. Sorry, refine that answer. Bills first, Vikings second. There we go.
Okay, we'll take that. You know, I always support you for any Minnesota love, because that I have had my path through Minnesota as well. One of the first things we bonded over, I'm almost positive. There, I knew I saw a Duluth Cup. It's funny because I do have a Minnesota mug that has the state, and it says home as well, but it doesn't say Duluth or Maple Grove or anywhere else on there. Maple Grove is where I hung out in Minnesota. Okay, we're going to pivot to women's sports, or back to women's sports. That's what this show is about. And I loved this question because it's actually really cool. We just talked about trailblazers and just kind of how different sports have been marginalized, especially between having a media spotlight that is bigger as well as social media playing a role. So which team in women's sports right now has a story that you would want to see adapted into a movie or documentary series?
For me, I decided, I don't know what's going to happen, but looking ahead, 2026 Winter Olympics, Team USA women's alpine ski team. Kind of a mouthful, but you get the gist. I just think, first of all, women's skiing needs a lot more exposure. I'm a skier myself. I raced pathetically for 2 years, but I lived with the alpine skiers at University of New Hampshire and grew to really love this sport. Also, I was texting my former college roommate, a Canadian skier, who says Lindsey Vonn is coming out of retirement at 40 years old, trying to train and get back to the Olympics. Yeah, so that would be my girl on fire if we get there. I don't know if we will, so I'm going to say that now. But yeah, so I just think seeing women skiers would be really cool. I mean, you really don't understand how freaking fast they are, how sharp the edges are. If you fall and you cut yourself, like they carry tourniquets on the course because you can injure yourself immensely. Wow. But I just think it would be really cool. Track this team, put a camera on them. I'd love to see more. How about you?
I would watch it. You definitely would get me to watch that because I love seeing the different intricacies of sports that, like, it looks like, oh my gosh, they're just going really fast down, a mountain and stuff like that. And there's so much physics that go into it. There's so much that these athletes have to figure out. And especially if Vaughn gets back into the mix, like, what a sick addition. I think it just needs to all be completely encompassed. I went with my love, my bread and butter of soccer. With there being new eras just like kind of taking over. Growing up, I didn't, being able to go to the professional status of soccer was much harder. Full scholarships for soccer was kind of hard as well. They offered partials, but it was very, very hard to make sure you got a full ride scholarship and then to even be invited to go do any sort of national workouts. So with looking up to like the Mia Hamms of the world, and then as I got a little bit older, the Sydney Leroux's, and I'm now 33 years old, and I'm just seeing so many of the players that I like looked up to in soccer that are either retiring or that are kind of taking different positions within the soccer realm. So I would love to see and track the 2024 USA women's soccer team that won the gold medal, because to be able to do that after not doing it since 2012, and then before that it was like the 90s, but again, considering the players that I just mentioned, like Mia Hamm and stuff like that, I just want to see what that trajectory looks like. And a lot of the girls rostered on that 2024 year, they have different paths in terms of like dating other professional athletes. So how do they commit to their craft? You got Mallory Swan, who had the winning goal, but she's married to a baseball player. And Sydney Leroux used to be dating other professional soccer players. So I just kind of think that it's different in a sense of like how their lives off the field are, and just kind of how they get back to that point on such a big stage such as USA. And it's really hard because some of the other countries, they really have like insane women teams. I mean, Brazil's always been our biggest competition year in and year out. So that's who I chose for my documentary in a long form. Yeah.
No, I like that because it also would highlight like, what do they do after their professional careers? I feel like that's like an unspoken part of being an athlete that people kind of shy away from talking about, because it's like, oh, it's the end. It's the bad part of your career. It's the bad part of life. But no, like let's show how it goes on. Let's show the life outside. I think that's a great idea. I would watch that, Kasey.
Yeah. And then like okay, good. I'm glad we have two that we can watch. And it's kind of that whole when to hang it up kind of thing, because when you win a gold medal on one of the biggest stages, like I refer back to Sydney Leroux because she's gone through so many injuries, and yet she is not ready to hang it up. She's been sidelined, but she's helping the team. She's kind of being that player's coach within the locker room. So that's the other thing that I'd like to see on the flip of the coin. But talking about the biggest stage, the Olympics are coming to Los Angeles in 2026. I can't believe 2026 is like here. Which event would you most want to see in person? I went with gymnastics because my mom has absolutely zero chill when any sort of gymnastics is on, she loses her mind. She is the most hype person in the house, in the neighborhood, honestly. Like, our neighbors used to know that she was so about this that they would come just to see her reaction to watch gymnastics routines. She's like a bundle. She's coiled up. She's freaking out over everything. But to my mother's credit, not to make her sound like a complete crazy person, she was a pretty insane gymnast growing up. So she still has so much passion for it and stuff. Like, Stick It's our favorite mommy-daughter movie, just because she gets to like relive so many of her big moments. So I would go for gymnastics. What would you choose?
I think that's funny because now I can tell who you got it from, right? When you're like sitting at home watching baseball, screaming at everything happening, and you're tweeting about it.
Thank you, Natalie.
Okay, so now we know where she gets it from.
It's genetic. Exactly.
There you go. It's in the blood. I think I would go for swimming. You know, and I'm going to go swimming. I know it's not like, when you think about a spectator sport, gymnastics, I think would be electric. I mean, the music, the routines, just the way you can admire the way that they move. I grew up really watching a lot of Olympic swimming with my dad. I remember we were camping in like 2008, I think it was. And that's, you know, the Michael Phelps era. And my dad would just freeze, drop everything. Michael Phelps is on, my show is on, like, we got to watch. So we really kind of grew up appreciating swimming. And I just think it would be cool to see that in person. I think it'd be a dream of mine to take my dad one day. But yeah, I would do that or track and field because I was really into that as well. Those kind of solo sports, I guess you can say.
Yeah. Individual, I guess, in a sense.
Individual.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, no, swimming gets is a lot more difficult than people realize. That's for sure. One of my best friends was a junior Olympic swimmer, and her routine was just wild what she had to do outside of the pool to make sure that she could even compete. So credit all around, obviously. It's not easy for anyone to make it to the Olympics, which means a lot to be proud of. Okay, we've got a couple things coming up, like some girls on fire to get to, so don't go anywhere. Remain with us here on Respect Her Game on the other side of this quick break. All right, from the Olympics, from the Trailblazers, from all the goods and, well, the gold in our eyes in terms of athletes when it comes to Respect Her Game, we get to one of our favorite segments, and that is Girl on Fire. That's when we give props to anyone who is continuing to pave the way, these big paths, or just continue to make noise when it comes to women's sports. Natalie, I will let you go first. Who is your Girl on Fire? You already teased her a little bit, but let's give her some more love.
I did. Yes, no, I wanted to talk about Lindsey Vonn just because I found this out today, so I might be late to the party, but I wanted to highlight texting my college, roommate, and she's like, "Did you know Lindsey Vonn's coming out of retirement at 40 years old to try and aim back to the 2026 Olympics?" And I was just like, "Wow!" I mean, think about how much your body changes. She had a knee replacement, a couple injuries that sidelined her. I don't know how long she was in retirement for. But I mean, the passion never dies for that sport. You can tell. I mean, I think about how difficult that is to recondition yourself. I'm sure the muscle memory is there, but sometimes there's frustration, like not being able to do what you might used to be able to do. Like, oh, I'd love to go run 3 miles, but my knees now can't handle it. Skiing is so hard on your knees. So I give Lindsey Vonn a lot of credit. I was also kind of reading up on her and realized that she had a nonprofit, the Lindsey Vonn Foundation, and the mission is empowering girls from undeserved communities with a positive and constructive atmosphere. So she is a huge advocate for girls in sports, and I just wanted to highlight her. And I'd love to see her in 2026 in Milan. I think that'd be great.
I would love to absolutely see her. It's funny that she even came up today because I just remember seeing shots of her at the U.S. Open and stuff like that. And I was like, I wonder what Von's up to because what a legend. She is going to be making her way back into shaking things up. So I think that is completely impeccable of her. Yeah, I loved it. I loved seeing anything that she was doing in the headlines. And then, of course, to be a charity and an advocate for women in sports, girls in sports, that's where it all starts. Speaking of an advocate for girls in sports, again, I talk about icons and I have a tattoo of the number 13. I wore the number 13 until college where they changed me to a gross 25. And it's Alex Morgan for me to be my Girl on Fire because I've loved everything about her career. But I was super emotional when she made the announcement about her retiring. But timing is everything. And last night, the San Diego Wave actually retired her number 13 jersey. The moment 13 went up forever. Did I get chills when I saw this? Absolutely. Did I tear up a little bit more when I saw her and her daughter? Of course I did. I was a complete sap over this because I don't know. I thought I'd be like 60 years old when Alex Morgan retired from soccer. So I think it's just like, it's so crazy. It just continues to make me think about the era changeovers and like, you know, the change of the guard and all of these things. And she's been a big advocate in just kind of speaking to all of the young girls, Alyssa Thompson, and then you've got Croy Bethune and Trinity Rodman, all of these new younger faces taking over soccer. Like they've learned a lot because of Alex Morgan, and they've also learned a lot because she was big on making sure that they get paid the right way, and she's still fighting that fight. So I feel like she's just been kind of like a face of so many big movements when it comes to on and off the pitch, as I used to say when I was a cool soccer girly. So yeah, that's my girl on fire. It had to be Alex Morgan. And I was like, look, I haven't been on Respect Your Game in a minute, and this happened to line up with it. There was no other better way than to jump back on and celebrate 13. Yeah, it's pretty insane.
What? Do you still, like, when you watch her, look at her, do you still feel like you're a little girl kind of looking up to her? And it's kind of like sad for us to see the chapters close, right?
Yeah, because now, like, I love getting to know these like new players and stuff and rally behind them, but it's so different when these athletes come into your life and, like you said, and you're a young girl. Like, I feel like I'll always kind of have like stars in my eyes for Alex Morgan and Sydney Leroux and everyone that like I watched. I hyper fixated on their game. But they made me have like this air of confidence to me, you know, like for soccer, whenever you want to try something new, you saw Leroux do it in a game and you did it in practice the next day. So it's really cool. But yeah, it's going to be different. Now I get to rally behind some new faces, and they have made it interesting already. I have to say they've come out super hot. And Trinity Rodman and a number of them. Huh?
I said, now we're the old ones, aren't we?
Oh my gosh. On that note, thank you for watching Respect Your Game. I age backwards. At least that's what I'll tell myself. I'll be celebrating my 4th annual 30th birthday coming up here. But that's a wrap for Natalie, Noury, and my aging self. Kasey Hudson, join us back here next week for Respect Your Game.